India's richest woman. She also happens to be the daughter of one of the pioneers of the Indian IT sector. But that would be an unfair way to introduce her because she's very much her own person and happens to be the first chairperson of a listed Indian IT company. For you, and Roshni Nadar Malhotra, chairman of HCL Technologies.
My media journey started with CNBC in Delhi as an intern there, but obviously I was a junior intern. No, I think sometimes the best experience comes from diversity of experience. So as you know, I was raised in a fairly liberal household, allowed to do whatever I wanted to pursue. I think if Shiv had serious plans of HCL, he would have asked me to do science in grade 12 and then put me into engineering. But I did commerce, and then I pursued an undergraduate education in radio, television, and film with a focus on journalism. And then I had interned with CNBC in Delhi one summer. I had interned with CNN, and then I worked at Sky News in London for about a year and a half. And I think the only conversation we did have, which was a very interesting conversation, he said that even if you'd like to at one time have a media empire, you still have to know the ins and outs of business. So please go and do business school. So I think that's how I landed up at Kellogg doing my MBA. And after that, moved back to India. So that was really the journey of moving from India, going into media, business school, and then moving back. Well, I love content. So in the Habitats Trust, which is a foundation that I'm a founder and trustee of, I have actually been producing TV series, which have been on the Animal Planet and National Geographic. A couple of years ago, I produced a very small children's film. So whenever I get time, I do keep my mind and hands and feet in content and media. No, I mean, that was all during school. And then I just haven't had a chance to review that. Now I vicariously live through my children, and it's an honor to be able to do so. I think what's been then tremendous is if you just remove, you can't remove, but if he's a great teacher. And he's been a great teacher his entire career. HCL's not just been built by him, but the brilliant people that he surrounded himself with, and so many that have learned along the way, including myself. He stepped off the role of being an active CEO almost 20 years ago. Since then, HCL has had multiple CEOs who have all also been his students, because they all started their careers in HCL. So similarly, I think for all of us, the larger-than-life figure is actually an amazing teacher. So I think that it's been a privilege, and he continues to be that. So, when I returned from business school, actually I returned and the holding company of the group, which is HCL Corporation, Shiv immediately made me the CEO of HCL Corporation. HCL Corporation, because of its shareholding structure of the companies, has a balance sheet that's almost as big as the operating companies themselves. So I think it was an instant, push into the deep side of, how to actually manage and run a large portfolio. And that taught me a lot. And that was 2009. And it was a very interesting time between 2009, 2013. I was actually spending a lot of time between both the group companies, HCL Technologies as well as HCL Infosystems, working in different departments, working with different leaders. At one point I was on the shop floor at our manufacturing facility in Pondicherry, because those days we used to make computers. Then I was in Vineet's office working with Zulfia in marketing. So I think there were lots of roles that got me familiarized with the huge group that was there. And in 2013, I was inducted on the board. And, I think it was a very interesting time because, one was also then seeing transition from, Vineet as the CEO, then to Anant, and then from Anant to CVK. In the last couple of years, our own transition from Anil being a CFO for so long to Prateek now being the CFO, lots of board changes as well. So I think that it was a very interesting induction because I think Shiv deliberately made sure that I was always in places where key decision making takes place, because it decides the trajectory and the strategic direction for the group in the organization. So, Shiv stepped off as the chairman last year, at which point, I was appointed. And so I think it's been a very interesting journey, but always being at the forefront of where key decisions get made that really decide, the future of the organization was very critical in my learning journey. I'm an only child. I've been around Shiv and just been around all these individuals at office literally since I was a kid. So, I think a lot of my equations with a lot of these people is also not just professional, but actually quite personal. So it's a very different equation. It's difficult to explain, but I think they've all been my mentors and teachers at some point as well. So, I've known a lot of the individuals at HCL for such a long time that strategically it's really a pivot and a shift. We were always doing a lot of business in IP and in solutions and in products and platforms. But when we actually took the leap to acquire these IBM products, actually it's not the IBM products per se, but it's how to do software business, which is very different than what we otherwise were doing, which is, ITBS or engineering services. So, and now the HCL software is almost 1/3 of our revenues, and it's a very large part of a strategic part of how we do business. And what we learned along the way, and there's still more to do, is the way we had to build those teams out. The kind of skills required to do software business, the kind of investment cycles. There's so much learned, and it's very different than how the rest of the business functions, which is a lot more predictable and perhaps even understandable by the markets. So I think it's been a strategic move for us. It's something that we continue to grow. It's given us access to over 2,000 global CXOs, which would have otherwise taken HCL as a company about a decade to develop those relationships. The customers that came with it, not just the revenues, the people that came with it. So I think that it has taken a couple of years to settle down, but all in all, this strategic investment was required, and I think it will hold us in good stead. It's certainly, I think, the largest tailwind has been, sadly, the pandemic, because it has pushed the demand for digitization that much more faster. What would have taken maybe 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden in the last 15 to 18 months just took off. And, there was a Gartner report that said that by 2025, cloud transformation will become the foundation for all intelligent enterprises. So it's not just tech companies. So I think that it's here to stay. It's getting adopted faster and faster. At HCL, we have the HCL Cloud Smart offerings. We were one of the first to dedicate units to hyperscalers such as Google, Microsoft, AWS. There's a lot of investment we're putting. And again, I think then the investment is not just in opening up business and opportunities, but it's actually skilling the people who are going to get us to the next step. And in solution architects, it all eventually boils down to more than tech. All our companies actually employ, lakhs and lakhs of people. So I think that technology is moving fast and we have to move as fast. Definitely. Shiv Nadar Foundation was founded in 1994. And Shiv had established the SSN College of Engineering in Chennai. All the rest of the institutions, Shiv Nadar University, the Shiv Nadar Schools, Vidya Gyan, the Kiran Nadar Museum of Art, Shiksha, were all established after 2009, after I returned. So I think that I'd like to say that it was a joint effort between Shiv, me, Kiran, my mother, as well as Shikhar, to actually get down and say that we wanted to build institutions and focus our attention there. So I think a lot of that has happened more recently, as in 2009 being more recent than 1994. And the foundation has really taken good wings. By March of 2022, we would have spent $1 billion. We've got 13,000 students in the system at the moment, 21,000 alumni all over the world, doing incredibly well. So I think it's also taken the foundation about 2 decades to mature and to see the kind of impact it can have. And it's a very different foundation because we're not spending that $1 billion towards thousands of and millions of lives. We're doing it much more focused. But I think Shiv's premise was that he is a product of quality education. And I think quality education still is, there's much left to be desired in our country. So I think the more that we can work towards that, the better it is. Well, I mean, I am 40. I think if it's HCL Technologies, definitely continues to grow, much bigger, much more dynamic. A lot of the fruits of our labor, maybe our P&P business will be as big as our rest of our business as well. Lots of aspiration there. If I think of Vidya Gyan, which is what I drive at the foundation, I've got a bunch of students who are now coming to the workplace. Maybe some of them will go on to establish their own companies and be entrepreneurs. And maybe they'll also have valuations like the ones we're seeing today. And that will make me pretty excited. If I look at the Habitats Trust, by the time I'm 55, would I, through the Habitats Trust, be able to save a species from extinction? I think that would be a great achievement. I mean, there are so many elements. I think you just have to take each day as it comes and make sure that you're more effective than you're efficient. I think that's what is very important, to be more effective than efficient. I mean, it's a bit out of the box. I don't know how many people would relate to it, but one of my role models and who I'm really inspired by is Jane Goodall. And I know she's not in tech and she's not, but she's in, and I had the privilege just in September she's in her 80s now, but she's such a force, to have about 25 minutes with her on Zoom, just talking one-on-one. And I think it's an experience I will never forget. I met her 3 years before that in 2019 or 18 in January at the World Economic Forum. And there were all these world leaders and I went up to her and I took a photograph with her and I said, I wish I could meet you and I could talk to you because she was surrounded by so many people. She's unique, but she's a force. Yeah, the only thing that we're running out of it is clean air and good earth.
There's so much amazing work that women are doing on their own, and it's been said before in the earlier sessions I was hearing as well, of breaking those ceilings to become entrepreneurs. But if I just look at within the company also, can women be given more opportunities to explore entrepreneurial ideas within, let's say, even an established organization, which is navigating and negotiating with their managers, getting their ideas through? I mean, we as an industry have a decent percentage of women when they enter the workforce. And India today, by sheer numbers, is the largest producer of women STEM graduates in the world. You know, so there are those many STEM graduates and women coming into the workplace, at least in tech, but a lot of them are actually falling out by the time they reach the senior levels. So I think creating an environment for them to come back into the workplace and saying that, you know what, when you come back, you'll be promoted. Not that, oh, you'll come back and you'll actually go a step down. Is also creating entrepreneurial opportunities with them for existing organizations. Because, you know, one of the things that Shiv used to tell me, and he was a first generation entrepreneur, he says that not everybody can be an entrepreneur. It's very easy to say, but not everybody is a successful entrepreneur, men or women, otherwise there'd be those many more. But there are many amazing large organizations where people work. So can you create entrepreneurial ecosystems within those organizations so that our industry going into the hybrid workspace, at least what ended up happening was that the productivity amongst our women workforce actually went much higher. Because till long time ago, flexible workplace was like, ooh, women ask for it. Now with hybrid and tech, everybody is flexible. Everybody wants to do, you know, and have time to themselves. So it's actually helped our women's workforce. And we hope to bring back more, and you know, they should at least be at parity with their male colleagues and be given the chance to rise. One thing that the tech industry does quite well is always looking at future technologies and future skills, and I think this one's coming faster than we can even blink. Well, I mean, we've always lived with technological inflections, right? And we would have been having this similar conversations. Obviously, there was no social media when the calculators came and people thought they wouldn't be able to do math. But we've come through that. Then the internet came and we thought, oh my God, you know, now kids will be using the internet all the time and they're not going to be learning in schools. I think we've learned to work with it. So I think even with the advent of AI, it's still early stage for use cases. But at least in our industry, I'm sure there will be a lot of applications and opportunities around it, perhaps a lot more of automation. But AI was built by humans. I think we'll be smarter than them, and we'll figure out how to use it to our advantage. So just to give you guys a sense, we committed about 15 million in partnership with the World Economic Forum at their platform of Uplink, to find aquapreneurs, that's entrepreneurs working on fresh water from all over the world. And it's a 5-year commitment, and each year we find 10 aquapreneurs. So this was the first year we rolled it out. We've got 10 aquapreneurs. In 5 years, we'll have 50. And some of the solutions which are coming out are around platforms and water credits, let's say in Latin America, to actually water recycling innovations within buildings and infrastructure. And there are many other solutions. I've met the aquapreneurs actually for the first time 3 days ago online. I hadn't met all of them yet. And because the UN Water Conference was going on, they had all gone to New York. So I'm hoping to get them to India later in the year and then pilot some of those solutions, because I think we have to see what works in our context. Absolutely. So we're looking at some of those solutions. And I mean, I'm very hopeful because in 5 years, we'll have 50 aquapreneurs from all over the world, coming from countries which are water-starved, coming from countries which have good water but have a very good circular water system. We've got an aquapreneur out of Singapore, and Singapore has probably one of the best water management systems. So I think, I stand on the shoulders of giants, and it's, you take each day as it comes. I love HCL.
You do?
I love HCL. It's okay. I think they're dying for I don't know why, they don't expect men to emote. Why do they expect me to emote? It's a chair's job is a chair's job. It's not, I'm man, woman. I'm just doing a job and enjoying it. HCL has had its own it's been built over 45 years, and we have a strategic direction which we want to take the company through differentiated products, services, delivering high TSR, and more than a technology company. When you've got 2.5 lakh people, it's as much a people company, and growing in the different geographies that we're growing. So it's also a fairly mature company. So I think a lot of, at least I can only say in the short and medium term, we have a strategic direction. We're going to stick to it. We're going to grow in a lot of other geographies, which we are. Over COVID, I'd mentioned to you when we met in Davos as well, we've opened 5 new delivery centers. They're all actually outside India. I think that's going to grow as much. And then, we embarked on the journey of software only in 2018. And so that's a fledgling. It's almost like a startup within the HCL Tech ecosystem. So that still has to mature, and that's got legs. I think decision-making, quick decision-making, given that the organization is also fairly complex now, I think it's also carrying people with you. And also for me personally, I've been at HCL since 2009. I've been on the board since 2013. Obviously always surrounded by people who are more experienced in their particular domain than I am. So I think constantly learning. I've been chair for 3 years. How's HCL Tech doing? Not too bad. So I think I'm getting along. Rahul, I have to give so much credit to my parents. I mean, my dad's a South Indian, my mom's a Punjabi. And, he was always building HCL. I don't have any siblings. He could have told me, go and do engineering. And at an impressionable age, I could have, or I could have done science or whatever. But he just said, go do whatever you want. But whatever you do, make a go at it, and you're on your own. So, so I liked communications, and I liked journalism and media studies. So that's what I did as an undergrad. Then I worked with Sky News as a news producer for a few years. And that was amazing. I think I really grew personally over there. And then, he just came to me and he said that, Roshni, maybe you should do business school, something normal. And I was like, okay. I said, again, it's a new experience, right? And I still remember my first day at Kellogg. The professor, my statistics professor, asked that who in this room has never used Excel before? And I was the only person who put my hand up. Because it was otherwise just consultants, so there were people who'd come from investment banking, or I'd never used Excel. So I think, again, I think my parents' style has been push in the deep ocean and then figure out what. So I think each of the learning has been like that as well. My husband's a Punjabi, so now I have to balance out the family, so I think I'll say South Indian.